Welcome to Questions to Eden. I am the author of the online blog, Jason Plubel, and have you ever heard a Muslim say that Muhammad is the reason, or that Islam is the reason that the West and modern culture has the concept of women's rights, and that Muslims created and built upon those concepts? Well, that is complete doo-doo garbage. So in Sahih Muslim 366600, Muhammad says that only a few women will enter paradise. Not few as in a handful, but there won't be a lot. He states it as a minority will enter heaven and such. And then also, according to Sahih al-Bukhari 6402, women in heaven are described as waiting in the corners of pavilions to await, pretty much partaking in like a cosmological divine harem where they are, again, forced to marry a man they've never met for eternity this time. Moving on to Surah 3359, it tells Muslims to wear hijabs, Muslim women. Where did this come about? Now, this verse entered the Quran because one of Muhammad's wives was out one night doing like a nighttime prayer, and one of Muhammad's chieftains, Umar ibn Khattab, saw her and didn't recognize her. So he went and begged Muhammad to establish that women should veil their hair in their heads so that the men can tell the difference between infidels and Muslims. And this was because so Muslim men could tell the difference between Muslim women and Jews and Christians, whom they were free to harass, abuse, enslave, and rape. Surah 424 permits men to have sex with the captives. So if they capture any women, it immediately joins them to... So say you go out and capture some women. Under Sharia law, those women are immediately joined into marriage with you. So say you capture some women that are married. Under Sharia law, their marriage is abolished from their previous husband and applied to you, making you their husband. And then also in the Quran it says that a man can come upon his wife whenever he feels. And Surah 23 verses 1 to 6 says, "Success is really attained by the believer who guards their private parts, except from their wives or from those bond women who are owned by their hands, as they are not to be blamed." But why is this? Why was this put in the Quran and stuff? And how do I know it is that Muslim men can have sex with their captives? Well, in the Hadith Sunan Abu Dawud 2150, it says that after Muhammad sent a military raid to Atos during the Battle of Hunain, the soldiers there were, quote, reluctant to have relations with their female captives in the presence of their husbands. So these men captured women that were married to men, and they wanted to have sex and rape these women in front of their husbands. So Muhammad called down Surah 424 to permit them to have sex with their captives in front of their husbands. In Sahih al-Bukhari 7715, a man beat his wife so bad that her skin is described as being greener than her clothes. And Muhammad takes the side of the abusive husband instead of the abused wife. Surah 2:282 says that 2 women are needed to offer the same testimony as 1 man. It says that if 1 man isn't present to offer testimony for something, then 2 women can fill like his spot in testimony. This means that women have half the value as a man in Islam. And Muhammad explains exactly why in Sahih al-Bukhari 3:826. Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of that a man? This is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind. Sounds like he doesn't have a very high view of women. Going further, in Sahih al-Bukhari 1:301, he calls women the majority of the people who would be in hell, and more deficient in intelligence and religion than men. Surah 434 says that if you are convinced that your wife is rebellious, you are to either convince them, leave them apart in beds, or beat them. this verse is prescribing husbands to beat their wives if they suspect them of misbehavior or rebellion, which reduces women to mere property of the man and encourages violence as a means to get your desires and such. And best of all, let's discuss Aisha. So Muhammad married a 6-year-old named Aisha. And in the hadiths, we are told that by Aisha herself that he consummated the marriage when she was 9 years old. That is insane. That is wild. And that is completely against the Muslim claims that Sharia law benefits women's rights. It absolutely removes their rights to do anything. But going on to even weirder marriages, Muhammad also married his son's wife. So Muhammad came to his adopted son Zayd's house, and he wasn't present, so his wife, what's her name? Zainab, answers the door and stuff, and Muhammad is described as praising her beauty and stuff, pretty much rizzing her up, and they either hook up or rizz back and stuff, and they end up flirting. Zayd's wife eventually informs him about what Muhammad did and like what happened between them, and from that point on she kept harassing Zayd. So Zayd would go to Muhammad and pretty much ask him about this, and Muhammad would just say, keep your wife to yourself and fear Allah. So Zayd divorces his wife because she's just constantly harassing him and cheated on him with Muhammad. And then Muhammad receives a revelation from Allah. Surah 33 verses 37 to 38 says that Allah permitted Muhammad to marry Zainab, but also abolish adoption. Now, Muslims can still care for a foster child, but under Sharia law, that foster child cannot call them a mother or father or have a parent-child relationship. So it's not the same as adopting a child as your own. And then just moving on to more recent cases, if you're not married and you're sexually assaulted in these Muslim-dominated areas in the Middle East, it counts as sex outside of marriage, and thus you cannot report it as a woman because it's shameful to have sex outside of marriage. So if you were raped before you're married, under Sharia law, that is seen as sex outside of marriage. So it's very shunned upon. And there are even testimonies of women who have attempted to report their assaults and just to have been in return taken out to fields and raped and abused and stuff. And just to even make this even worse, because 2 men need to be present for a witness of an event, and 2 women need to fill 1 man's spot, there needs to be 4 total women to even make the testimony of the rape claim even considerable under Sharia law. And if you are raped, in some areas legislation will allow the rapist to escape punishment by marrying the person they raped, like the case of Amina Falali, who committed suicide in March 2012 after she was forced to marry her rapist, or Gulnaz in Kabul, Afghanistan. She was also forced to marry her rapist, and in recent reports she is now carrying the 3rd child that she has had to this rapist now. And if you're in the UK and have a young daughter, she could be kidnapped, trafficked in Muslim sex rings, and then have the entire event covered up by the government. Absolutely not. Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. It is an ideology that is 1,400 years old. It is an ancient, pagan by very nature and origin ideology that is completely outdated. It does not expand upon women's rights. Everywhere they go, they expand to, they conquer. All throughout their history, they have reduced the rights of women. Whenever the very first crusade was Muslims overtaking Christian and Jewish Holy Land, Jerusalem. So, and in this, they would impose a blood tax where they would capture little Christian boys and force them to convert to Islam and pretty much raise them as soldiers. So you do not see Islam promoting the rights of anybody but a Muslim man. So I hope that maybe clears up some of the fog that you may have hearing a bunch of the different positions online. But if you're going to use anecdotal evidence, like my friend is a Muslim and he doesn't follow any of this, just like I would say to someone that's ridiculing a bad Christian, saying Christianity isn't true, our religion isn't defined by the people. It's defined by the sources. And when you go to the Bible, you don't see any commands or prescriptions to rape, beat women. In fact, when Jesus came and he established the male-female marriage, the holy contract under God, that was the very first step into women's rights even being a concept that entered ancient men's minds in the first place. So no, Islam hasn't done anything for women's rights. It has only attacked and degraded it. And I hope that was a good video for you. If you liked it, visit the blog, read an article or two. I do pour my heart and soul into these. I do not make any money off of them. This is all just my sacrifice to the Lord, honestly. And like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and follow if you're on Instagram or something. And without further ado, keep asking questions, don't be stupid, and you have a right to be wrong.